This video is brought to you by patreon.com/worsttake. Get access to exclusive live streams and Discord servers, on-screen shoutouts, and early access to some videos when you join now. Help make sure that we can continue to make content like this by supporting the Patreon. Links are in the description down below. Yo, what's up, and welcome to Q&A, the show where I take your questions and answer them here in video format. First question comes from SB, who says, "Hey Q, longtime supporter and fan here. What are your expectations for the season? Any record predictions? Go Browns. Keep up the great content. Broham." He hit me with the Jamie Foxx show reference. Shout out to Braxton. Hit me with the Broham. What is my expectation for the season? I expect the Browns, if healthy, to be a Super Bowl contender. That doesn't mean that they reach the Super Bowl or even get to the AFC Conference Championship game, but that does mean that they are a serious Super Bowl contender. If they get bounced in the second round, it's because they played Kansas City and they took Kansas City to the wire, right? Well, healthy Kansas City too, to the wire. Not like Pat Mahomes missing for the fourth quarter. Like, you took a healthy Kansas City to the wire, and it just didn't go your way. Or you got to the AFC Conference Championship game and you showed up in that game and almost won it. Or you get to the Super Bowl, or you win the damn Super Bowl. But they should be contenders if healthy. Super Bowl contenders if healthy. I'm not going to judge that on whether they win the division or not. I'm not going to judge that by just their overall record. It's going to be a combination of things, but they should feel like Super Bowl contenders if they are relatively healthy this year. That is where they should be at. That's where the bar is for this season. If it's anything lower than that, we aren't going to feel great about it. That's just the reality that it is. But thank you for that question, Broham. And to the next one, nice jetpack. That probably is awkward as hell if you don't watch the Jamie Foxx show. Hey Q, every year we have a preseason MVP. Would say 2022 was Josh Dobbs. 2023 was Austin Watkins. If you had to take a guess, who do you think it could be this year? My vote is either to Aiden Robinson or Cedric Tillman. Mike Woods, baby. What you mean? It's going to be Mike Woods. Mike Woods has been the spring king of the Cleveland Browns for the longest time. Now, if you don't know who Mike Woods is, congratulations, you live a healthy life because you're not terminally online. But Mike Woods is a fringe practice squad level player for the Cleveland Browns who was drafted by them in the 7th round a few years ago out of Oklahoma, who always has some really impressive spring football clips during practice, like during OTAs. Now, we have not yet got to see much of him in the preseason period, but come on, dog. It's almost always a wide receiver. It's almost always a wide receiver on the third. Like, it's always some dude on the third string, by the way, that ends up being the preseason MVP because those are dudes who get to play. Mike Woods. Mike Woods is my preseason favorite for Browns preseason MVP. I will also throw a vote in there for Jameis Winston because I think he's going to be hilarious. And maybe, you know what? Don't count out DTR because he's fighting for his life this preseason. And he might do some Josh Dobbs level antics to beat out Tyler Huntley. It might take it. It might take it. But I don't think it's going to be like Cedric Tillman or Aiden Robinson because they're trying to see too many running backs for it to be a running back unless he's like super good. And if he's super good, they'll probably stop running him. And Cedric Tillman is still somebody they value, so he's not going to play much in the preseason. It's going to be somebody like Mike Woods. That's always like, that's my bet. If he's still on the roster by then, but Mike Woods, who I'm going with. Raw Dollar says right here, do you play fantasy football and are you rostering any Browns players? Yes, I do play fantasy football. I would advise you to not take my fantasy football advice because I stink at fantasy football. But if you want a chance to play fantasy football with me, I do a league with my Patreon members every year. So make sure you join that if you want to play fantasy football with me. And also might be doing a dynasty mode on College Football 25 for the Patreon members. And who knows, if that goes well, might do a franchise. But I don't know, man. That college football looking so good that I might just play that all fall or in all winter. But yeah, I'm definitely going to do that dynasty mode. So if you want to have a chance, if I do a league, a dynasty, an online dynasty for the Patreon, I play on PS5. Join that Patreon, man, and you'll get the invite if that's something I decide to do. But yeah, that's the deal with fantasy football. Rats95 says, do you think Jerry Judy can be a CeeDee Lamb or Amon-Ra St. Brown type player for this Browns and Dorsey offense? I don't want to put those expectations on Jerry Judy because I feel like those expectations being put on Jerry Judy is part of the reason why Jerry Judy has never lived up to the expectations that he has had. But I do think that he can be something around those lines. I think that's the dream for him, right? An elite route runner who could be a yak guy. There's still some things in the way of him reaching that potential, right? Contested catches have to get better and just consistency has to get better for Jerry Judy. But I think the potential is there for something like that to be possible with him, most definitely. Hey, Q, what do you think is the most likely outcome for right tackle this year? Who do you think will be the final decision and get the starter position when it comes down to picking one guy? I think it's going to be DeJuan Jones. And I think the reasoning for the decision is going to be fairly obvious. One, Jack Conklin is not back from injury yet. He's still working back from injury. So you got to figure out what that whole situation is going to be with him. It's not really set in stone. Two, DeJuan Jones is healthy. We just saw the man playing basketball last week. Like, he's hooping. He's good. He's back off that injury. He's younger. Quite frankly, he's a better bet right now than a Jack Conklin coming off like a third straight season-ending injury. And I think Jack Conklin's at the point of his career where he has to understand he cannot start anymore. Like, I think that's just where he is. And I wouldn't even be surprised if we find out that Jack Conklin's going to retire soon. Now I'm not hearing anything. Let me be clear on that. I'm not hearing anything like that he's going to be retiring or anything like that. I'm just speculating based on the fact that he's had so many injuries and he has to be real when he looks at his roster. He's going to see that there's not going to be room for him to start. It's not his time. So yeah, I think this is going to come down to Jack Conklin being older and injured. And he's still not back from that injury. And he's had a lot of injuries. And he's 300 plus pounds. And at 300 plus pounds and above 6'3", those injuries linger more when you have lower extremity ones. It just doesn't look great for Jack Conklin. And if you're the Browns, you would like him as a backup more than you would like him as a starter, especially the way that DeJuan Jones played last year. I see no reason to go back to Jack Conklin, to be honest with you. I think that's just what it is. Jack has played well here, but I think this is going to be pretty much it for him. Photo Project says, hey, Q, how do you feel about the average age of our offensive line will become an issue this season? I think this is the last year that the Browns are going to be pulling out what feels like the 2020 unit, right? Like that 2020 core of offensive linemen, Jed, Wyatt Teller, Joe Bitonio. Ethan Posick wasn't in that core, but it was J.C. Tretter at the time. But that core of three guys, I think this is their last rodeo with each other. And I think it could be possible that all three of those guys are not on this offensive line to start next year because they need to get younger and they need to get cheaper, right? Jed Wills might cost a bunch of money, but Jonah Williams got a 2-year, $20 million deal somewhere, or like $25 million somewhere. And if Jonah Williams is going to get that, then Jed's at least getting 30 for 2, right? At least 30 for 2, probably more than that. And you're already paying a ton of money for Jack Conklin. You're already paying a ton of money for Wyatt Teller. There's just a lot of money in this offensive line, and the play is not matching the amount of money that's going into this offensive line. So I think over the next couple of years, right, I think the Browns going to do their best to duct tape it together for this year. But 2026, 2025 is going to be about reloading that offensive line, having guys like Zach Zinter start, maybe drafting a tackle, getting younger, getting cheaper. It has to happen. We're seeing Baltimore do it right now. The Browns are doing their best to keep this group together because they feel like they have a legitimate chance to compete for a Super Bowl this year. But after this year, they're gonna have to reload, because this is not gonna last more than a year, if it lasts for this year, this current core of offensive linemen, because you're right, it's a concern, not just their age, but their level of play. And I would say level of play and cost more than age is the factor there for this Browns offensive line. Do you think Myles Garrett will get the sack record this year? I don't think it's going to be possible for Myles Garrett to get over 20 sacks again in his life. And the reason I don't think that's going to be possible for Myles Garrett is simple. Teams are willing to lose yardage. They're willing to roll protect. Teams are willing to do way too much to compensate for Myles Garrett to ever get that many sacks again. Like, we're just gonna have to not judge Myles Garrett based on the sack numbers by how teams protect against him. This is a similar conversation that we had to have with Darrelle Revis when teams would just avoid him, right? And when that whole Revis Island thing started, that's going to be what it is for Myles. Like, teams are going to try to keep Myles out the game so much that he's not going to have 20, 30 opportunities to sack the quarterback. They're not going to leave him one-on-one more than like a couple of times a game. And even when they're doing that, they're running away from Myles. Just way too much preparation for Myles Garrett goes on for these offensive lines for Myles Garrett to slip through and get 20 plus sacks. So I don't think that's ever going to happen. Teams are way too focused on trying to stop Myles Garrett, but I think you can judge Myles Garrett's impact by the overall sack numbers or the overall pressure numbers for the Cleveland Browns defense, which should increase because these guys can get amazing looks on the opposite side of him. The next question comes from Xbox, who says, who is the most famous Browns fan? LeBron James. I think that's pretty obvious. LeBron James is the most famous Browns fan. Now, I know some of y'all gonna argue whether LeBron is a Browns fan, because he did used to be a Cowboy fan, and he used to be very vocal about being a Cowboy fan. And now he's very vocal about being a Browns fan. I know. But he's a Browns fan. He claims the Browns now, and he's LeBron James. He's got to be the most famous Browns fan. That's just how that works. It's either that or what? Condoleezza Rice? I'm going to go with Bron on that one. Jacob says, hey, Quincy, when are you and Kolb going to do more episodes? I always enjoy you two, and you seem to open up more and be more loose when you and Kolb collaborate. Yeah, man. Me and Kolb coming back once the season kind of comes back. So probably around August, we'll start hitting y'all with that new episodes. But right now we've taken a little bit of a break. Let y'all miss us a little bit, you know, let us recharge the battery, let you miss us a little bit. Then we're going to smack you right in the face with Q and Kolb all fall. So that's what the plan is for Q and Kolb. We're just going on our natural hiatus. And also, you know, I do a lot of work on this channel. I do a lot of work on other channels. I also need that time to, you know, recuperate, right? So I could be at peak performance when it comes to this podcast stuff all year round. It's part of maintenance. So we just on a little bit of a hiatus for right now. But appreciate you asking. Q and Kolb is all. Don't worry, it ain't going nowhere. But thank you guys for your questions. Appreciate y'all. Y'all have a great day. Have an even better night. Peace.